I'm taking notes, and by way of title, the title of this message is For Such a Time as This.
Amen.
For such a time as this. How many know that we're in some very challenging times, but we're in a very defining time? You know, when you think of the last several months, we've been dealing with a coronavirus pandemic. We have been dealing with, like Prophet Zara said, racial unrest within the country, protests and rioting and looting and police brutality and just a lot of stuff. And there have been a lot of fear in the land. But for such a time as this, because through it all, we know, as kingdom sons and daughters, that our God is on the throne.
Yes, it is.
But even though he's on the throne, sometimes we get very comfortable with the activities of daily life.
Amen.
We get so comfortable that we can't hear the screams of what's going on all around us. We go to work, we go to school, get breakfast, lunch, dinner. We work out, visit our friends and family, go to church, and we get into this pattern where we're doing the same things with very little variation over and over again. But we can't even hear, and worse, we ignore the screams of those around us that are hurting and dying literally and figuratively. But then something happens that is so outrageous and traumatic that it shakes the nation and indeed the world. And then in 1963, that event was the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, which killed 4 little girls and injured 22 others. This shocked the consciousness of the world. This heinous act of white supremacy and terrorism was perpetrated by the Ku Klux Klan in Birmingham, Alabama. Although the FBI concluded that the members of the KKK were responsible for the murders, no prosecutions were conducted until 1977. And it was only until into the 2000s before the last ones were prosecuted and convicted. This event hit America at its core, but it marked a turning point in the fight for civil rights, for black people, and equal protection under the law and Constitution. Now, when you think of that, let's fast forward that to what's happening today, what's going on in America and indeed the world. You know, for almost 2 straight weeks, America and the world has been gathering and they've been rallying and marching to protest unchecked state violence against black people. And for me, and I believe for many others, this is a defining moment of object clarity. Because when we saw that outrageous and traumatic cruelty video that described the death of George Floyd, it changed something. It shifted something in myself and probably many people alike. This tragic and unbelievable event has catapulted this country and the world with a clarion call for change that will not be denied. And what was even more shocking, the police officer was looking at the camera as he had his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck as life was being pushed out of his body. As bystanders were screaming, "Stop, stop, you're killing him, stop." And for nearly 9 minutes, including 2 minutes and 43 seconds after he became non-responsive, he still had his knee on the neck of Mr. Floyd. Protests have erupted virtually all over America, in small towns, in major cities, in Europe, New Zealand, United Kingdom, in other towns and cities abroad. Black people, white people, and people of all different backgrounds and cultures are vocalizing their support for the Black Lives Matter movement against racism and injustice and against police brutality. There's no doubt in my mind that this Black Lives Matter movement in this space of time will bring a lasting and impactful change to the world. People are saying enough is enough, and this police brutality must stop by any means necessary. And when I thought about what was going on in the world, I have to apologize to Brother Colin Kaepernick. And I do apologize for not supporting him, but I do support him now. You know, having 24 years in the Air Force and now a retired veteran, you know, I thought that he could have found another way to protest rather than kneeling during the national anthem. And I had a lot of trouble with that because I love this country, I love the flag, love the national anthem. But when I look at that incident today in light of, here it is, Colin Kaepernick is doing a nonviolent, peaceful protest, kneeling on his knees, but you have a law enforcement officer kneeling on the neck of someone for almost 9 minutes. And so I thought to myself, this protest, or what Colin was protesting, really did not have anything to do with the flag.
Yeah, he wasn't.
What he was protesting was the treatment and police brutality of a people.
Yeah.
And he was trying to draw high level, national and international level attention to an issue that needed to be corrected. And he chose this as a affront to deal with that. Hallelujah. Tell Jesus I said hello, Mom. You know, and when I think about that, others may accuse him of disrespecting the flag, and I understand that. I don't, and never did. I just thought he could have done something different. But the truth of the matter is that it brought high level attention, and even more pronounced now that he did it in a peaceful, non-violent manner. You know, when I think of my life, I've done some marching. I remember back in 1995, I attended the Million Man March. I remember in 1997, I attended the Promise Keepers March. You remember that one? In the year 2000, I attended the Million Family March. All of these marches took place in Washington, D.C. But for 20 years, I took a different stance. I did more of my perspective was one of a kingdom march, kingdom economic march. What is that? A kingdom economic march, from my perspective, is marching to the properties and businesses, marching to them and from them, and marching around them, and marching from the properties that God has given me to manage and steward for the building and advancement of his kingdom. Because in my mind, that if there has to be an economic shift where you can hire and you can change people's lives and you can provide opportunity to feed them and all these different things. And so I was trying to make a change by ownership to shift the economic scales to put kingdom sons and daughters in position where they could have greater and greater influence that align with God's vision and purpose for their lives. And I've been teaching that for many, many years. Hallelujah. It's something when you're able to hire someone and give them financial resources to be able to take care of their family. It makes a difference. It makes an impact. Hallelujah. But then, yesterday, my wife and I went to the Black Lives Matter March, my first march after 20 years, in Woodstock. And one of the organizers asked me to speak at the event. This is ironic because, like I say, marching and rallies and protesting in my mind in the past, I didn't think it yielded very much in terms of tangible results. But that thinking was before June 1st, this past Monday, a day that changed my life in the world. Outlook forever. You see, it was a day that began like many other days. I'm driving to one of my properties in Edinburgh to conduct business. Then I observed two individuals, one male and one female, who did not live in the apartment building, dragging a refrigerator through my parking lot towards my dumpster. Because they do a lot of dumping on my property, people from the community. And it costs me a lot of money to move this stuff, and it keeps showing up. And I informed these individuals that they were trespassing and that they couldn't dump their refrigerator on my property. And I asked them to leave. They became irate and began verbally attacking me and threatening me about what they would do. One of the individuals got in my face and was going off, and the other individual left. But he came back with 3 more people. Now I got 5 people, 3 males and 2 females in my face, attacking me verbally and physically, and threatening to kill me. At this time, I had one of the males in my face, bumping my nose, bumping his chest up against me. 2 of the other individuals were flanked on both sides. One of the individuals ran to me full speed, snatching his shirt off, jumped in my face, and then he circled around behind me. And so now I got one right here, and I got one in the back of me, bumping me from the back, and the others are flanked around me. And at the same time, these same individuals was threatening my life, telling me that my black life and the Black Lives Matter stuff they don't give a darn about that stuff in this county, and they could care less, and we will kill you. I don't like you talking to my, mama said, his wife. And being threatened and fearing for my life, I took and felt compelled to pull my concealed weapon, legally concealed weapon, to save my life. And when I did that, finally these individuals backed up long enough for me to call 911 to ask for assistance to deal with this. Very traumatic experience. I don't know if you've ever been through anything like that. I never have. Very trying. Fast forward a little bit. When I called 911, the person that answered the phone, instead of asking how I was doing, whether I was in a safe zone or anything like that, all they wanted to know is was I the one with the gun. And finally, I just said, I need your help, and hung up. Shortly thereafter, sheriffs and police cars and deputies were coming from everywhere. It was probably about, looks like 10 individuals, sheriff and deputies showed up, made a beeline to me, and asked me, was I the one with a gun? And asked me, could they have the gun? Took my gun. When they took my gun, they immediately went to the mob, that 5-gang mob that had trespassed upon my property. All this happened on my property. They went and talked to them. They were still hollering racial epithets. They were still threatening my life. They were still telling me what they were going to do, even with the sheriff there. But I was really never given the opportunity to tell what was going on and how I was treated, how I was trespassed upon, how I was assaulted, both verbally as well as physically.
On your own property?
On my own property. And why I felt compelled and was compelled to pull my weapon to save my life. Long story short, they came back to me and said that we got to arrest you for banishing a firearm. And I said, but what about the trespassing and the assault? And the gentleman, I knew this particular gentleman that was the arresting officer. He'd been knowing me for almost 20 years. He knew what kind of person I am. He said, look, I don't agree with it. I told him I didn't agree with it, but they told me that this is what I gotta do. He came to me and said, I gotta put you in handcuffs in front of the mob, as all of them stood with these mobsters and those that assaulted me. They put me in handcuffs, took me to the car, put me in the car. And when they got me in the car before we took off, one of the sergeants came to me and I said, I haven't been able to tell my story. What about the trespassers and what about the people that have assaulted me? He said, look, we can only do one thing. We can only do one thing at a time. I said, what do you mean you can only do one thing? You got 10 sheriffs and deputies here. He said, look, our instructions are to arrest you for banishing a weapon. You can tell anything else, you can tell the magistrate. The magistrate will give you opportunity, and you tell your story to the magistrate. They took off, and these same 5 individuals still yelling and making all kind of accusations. They're waving at me as I go down the road. Now you think about this. How disturbing that is. I want you to imagine for a minute. Can you just bear with me because I'm having a tough time with this. Just close your eyes for a minute. I want you to think of something. Close your eyes. You are fully surrounded by a mob of 5 attackers that are continuing their physical mob attack and assault against you while trespassing on your property. You fear for your life because of the sustained physical and verbal assault, including threats to kill you while making racial threats such as saying Black Lives Matter don't matter. That's BS. It doesn't matter in this county, and it doesn't matter to me either, among many other racial things. With your very life in danger, you are compelled to grab your weapon, your Second Amendment weapon, pointing it to the ground, which stopped the mob from killing you. You can open your eyes. Just think about how you would feel. This act, through the grace of God, saved my life, and the attackers backed off, which allowed me the opportunity to call 911. However, when I asked for help from the authorities, I didn't get any help. Nobody could see me. Nobody could hear me. I felt literally like I had been lynched without being killed. When I met with the magistrate, I was unable to tell my story to the magistrate because all the magistrate was concerned about was my name, whether it was spelt right, whether I had cut my hair. I guess she thought I was maybe my son. And did I have a record? When she found out, I guess she couldn't really believe that I didn't have a criminal record. When she found out I didn't have a record, she released me on my own recognizance and told me that I had to be in court on the 24th of July, 2020. This was indeed the most humiliating, dehumanizing, demeaning, and violating event of my life. I'm a pastor, a decorated 24-year Air Force Master Sergeant veteran, no criminal record, never having ever been arrested, never having handcuffs on, having been victimized by these hate crime, mob assaulting criminals that watched me being handcuffed and carted off like a dog, while the deputies stood with them, but yet they did not interview me to see what really happened. This sole purpose, in my opinion, was a rush to judgment. They responded by disarming a black male brandishing a gun against 5 white individuals, despite my Second Amendment right to have a gun to defend myself against these attackers that were trying to take my life. In my mind, this is totally unacceptable. It would not be tolerated if I was white, and I believe all of you know it to be true. I believe everybody looking on Facebook, YouTube, and anywhere else know that to be true. When I talked to several other deputies, after finally getting an opportunity to share my story the next day, they said I would have probably done the same thing too. When I had an opportunity to go sit with the sheriff, the real sheriff, he acted like he couldn't believe it. Why? Because nobody investigated. Nobody really could hear me or see me to find out what really happened. And so finding out what happened, he said that he was going to go to the magistrate as well as the Commonwealth attorney. He called me back and said that he did that, and that he told the Commonwealth attorney that had I been in the same predicament, I think I would have done the same thing. And I'm asking you to drop the charges before he goes to trial. And she said she would take it under advisement. But I'm having some trouble because that's not my life.
Right.
That's not That's not what I've been preaching for 10 years. I think there's supposed to be safety when you're on your own property. I think you should be able to do some things when you're on your own property that you're not going to get assaulted, victimized, and threatened on your own property. And then to add further insult to injury, a couple days ago, this event happened Monday, this past Monday. A couple days ago, the town of Edinburgh, this happened in Edinburgh, Virginia. The town of Edinburgh called me from the mayor's office. And what they said to me is, Mr. McCray, can we get you to come down to share? Because we have several neighbors in the area where your property is. We got the mayor is going to be at the meeting. We got the town council is going to be at the meeting. And we have one of the sheriffs, one of the captains is going to be there at the meeting. I didn't know what kind of meeting I was going into. I didn't know if this was going to be another lynching or what. I didn't know. But I talked to Val and I said, you know, we felt that we probably need to go to this meeting because I had another meeting in Northern Virginia to go to, but I canceled that meeting to go to this meeting. When I went to the meeting, I found out from the neighbors that live on the same street next door and so forth, that they also had been terrorized over the last 2 years from this family. I found out that several individuals that attended the meeting, they had been assaulted. They, one of the individuals had been threatened, they threatened to burn a house down. They threatened to burn a car. One was physically assaulted. They had criminal history, they had criminal records. Not only did the mayor know about it, but all the townspeople knew about it. Town council knew about it. The sheriff and all the deputies, they all knew about it. All the responding officers knew about it. Because even when I went to jail, I overheard one of them say, we got to get that family out of the county. And so when I went to this meeting and I thought about all of you knew what happened and all of you responded to the situation, but instead of coming to talk to me, you held and stood with this mob, and that's who you talked to, and you arrested this veteran, this pastor, somebody that did not have a record, and you knew what happened. It just added insult to injury. And I asked that captain because I did not recognize him. I said, were you at this event where I was arrested? And he said yes. Wow. And when he said yes, your pastor kind of went off. I said, you were a part of this lynching, and you knew these individuals were this kind of people. You knew they had attacked other people in the past. You knew that you knew that all of this stuff was going on, and you didn't provide an opportunity. You didn't come up to me. You didn't talk to me. I was furious. And it took me a long time, really, God, and having a wife that know how to pray. I remember I just had no peace, Eric. I had no peace, Tammy. I had no peace. I couldn't get my peace. I had such problems, and I couldn't walk. No, I walk every day. I couldn't walk. And I told Val, I'm restless. I'm having problems. It took me back to my military days of PTSD, and I just started having issues. And I sat Val down and I put my head in her lap and I just cried, and she prayed for me because I was really being challenged in my spirit and in my heart and in my soul and in my body.
But you talked very respectfully to them. I mean, you were.
I did.
You were okay.
I was very respectful.
You were upset, but you were very respectful.
And I wanted you to know that when I went to the rally, I think the prayer took a lot of bitterness away, and it allowed me to reset. And so I told my story at the rally. I told them that my black life might not have mattered to those cops, to that 5 gang trespassers and assaulters that assaulted me, but my black life mattered to me. Because you're here, you're listening, it must matter to you.
Yeah.
My life, I value your life. I want you to value my life. And I left them with this parting information. Through it all, God is on the throne. I'm made in the image of God. I'm made in the likeness of God. I am a kingdom son.
Yes. Amen.
I am a kingdom son, and my black life matters.
Yes.
And your life matters.
Amen.
So let me close with this. It's a real shift. But I was thinking of scripture that kind of tied in to this. You remember now, the title of this message was for such a time as this.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is really not about me. Because I'm in a position to influence people that's in this church, people that's in this community,
Amen.
people that hear me online.
Yes.
I'm in a position to provide some influence.
Yes.
And so I have a responsibility to do that. Esther, in the book of Esther, Esther had a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You see, Esther was a Jew, but the king and those that are in the harem and those that were in areas of leadership, they didn't know she was a Jew. But she really wasn't raised as a Jew. She was raised in such a way that she was to fit in. And so, but then sometimes there comes a point where a shift has to take place. That you have to make a stand.
Yes.
And so there was a clarion call and a declaration that went out that all the Jews would be killed. And Mordecai raised her. And sometimes when you're in a comfortable position and everybody is serving you as a queen or a king or whatever the case might be, you're in a very comfortable position. Sometimes it's easy to stay in your comfort zone and not ruffle any feathers.
Amen. Yes.
But Mordecai told her that don't think that you can just stay here and be silent and think that and everyone else is just going to die and you're going to be able to carry on with your life, in other words. It's not going to happen. God will use someone else. This is the defining moment for you to make a difference. And so she thought about it. And she asked him to go into a 3-day fast. Valerie asked for a 3-day fast. Thank you, Lord, for participating.
Amen.
Fasting and prayer. And at the end of that, this is her words. Because of time, I'm not going to read it, but it's in the book of the book of Esther, chapter 4 and so on. It starts there at chapter 4 and 11. But Esther said, because when you are not able to just, as a queen, go before the king. The king has to ask for you to come into his presence. And so she had already been in his presence for 30 days or so, and the king had not summoned for her. And when the king do not summon for you, and you come into a presence, it's by law, they put you to death. So her life was on the line. But it was time to make a difference because the entire Jewish people were going to be wiped out. And so she said this after the prayer. She said, I want prayer to come forth. I want fasting. And then after that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go before the king. And if I die, I die. But I'm going to go before the king. I'm going to take a stand. And so she went before the king. And the king obviously loved this girl. And obviously she was some kind of beautiful. And the king extended his scepter to her. And she told him what happened. How Haman had made this declaration to kill all the Jewish people. How he had set up basically this thing that would to hang, Mordecai. But the things that you do and the traps that you set, for one, those things can be a trap and a setup for you.
Exactly.
Because instead of Mordecai being hung, Haman was hung on that same chart. And Esther, God used her to save all the people. So I don't know what all God is going to do with this. People are asking me to speak. People are asking me to do different things. I just know that I'm still charged. I got to find a lawyer to defend me. Charges have not been dropped. I got to find the money to pay for a lawyer because I can't just get a lawyer around here. They all know each other.
Right.
I got to get a lawyer out of the area that really understand law because that charge carries jail time with it.
Yeah.
And how many know? I know who I am.
Amen.
And I know God is on the throne.
Amen.
And I know in the end that God will turn this thing around. And what the enemy meant for evil,
That's right.
God will turn it around to my good.
Amen.
Because I am a kingdom son.
Yes.
And I say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in this situation, on earth, in this time, and in this season.
Yes.
Praise be to the Most High God. Stand to your feet. Amen.